Imagine standing in a place so far removed from your own time that the sky itself feels like it belongs to another universe. The stars are the same, but everything beneath them is wrong. You've fought beasts, you've wrestled with fire, you've resisted the temptation of knowledge, and still you remain. But survival isn't the real terror anymore. The true horror has begun to creep in, slow and silent. The thought that you may never leave. That the portal, the glitch, the accident that hurled you here, may never open again. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about permanence, about eternity. Because if you never return, then you're not a traveler. You're not a survivor. You're a prisoner, locked inside a past that never asked for you, and a future that may never know you. And that horror is worse than any beast, any hunger, any wound. At first, you tell yourself it's temporary. That time travel always comes with glitches. That doors eventually reopen. So you wait. You wait for the shimmer of light, the hum of energy, the unseen doorway that spat you out here. You wait for the ground to split, the air to burn, for anything familiar to take you back. But nothing happens. Days bleed into nights, nights into days. The sky doesn't change. The portal doesn't return. And slowly, waiting transforms into torture. Because the mind cannot endure endless anticipation. Every sunrise feels like mockery, every sunset like betrayal. You begin to wonder, what if waiting is not the answer? What if nothing is coming at all? And in that silence, you feel something worse than hunger or fear, hopelessness. The horror isn't that you're here. The horror is that you might be here forever. You lift your eyes to the night sky, desperate for comfort. The stars glimmer, ancient and unchanged. But here's the problem. They are the same stars you've always known. Orion, the Pleiades, constellations etched into memory. The sky should bring comfort, but instead, it becomes the cruelest prison. Because every star reminds you of home. Every constellation whispers of a world you may never touch again. They are proof that the universe remains unchanged, while you are the one trapped out of place. You imagine people back in your own time, walking under these same stars. They laugh, they love, they live, and they don't know you're missing. To them, nothing has changed. And that's when the horror deepens. Because if the world continues without you, if history forgets you, then your absence means nothing. You aren't lost in time. You are erased from it. The stars don't care that you're here. The sky doesn't mourn you. Time does not pause for you. It simply moves on. Silence. That's the first thing you notice after days of waiting. The creatures that once terrified you now avoid you. The fire no longer comforts. The forest feels empty. And the silence begins to whisper. You hear voices where there are none. You speak aloud just to fill the air. You tell yourself stories, recite memories, cling to scraps of who you once were. But the more you speak, the less your own voice sounds familiar. It begins to echo strangely, like a stranger's voice trapped in your throat. Solitude becomes its own predator. It stalks you in the quiet, prowls at the edges of your sanity. And in that madness, a thought takes root. Maybe you were never meant to return. Maybe the timeline rejected you, erased the path back, and left you here as punishment. You are not a traveler anymore. You are in exile. You start counting days. 1, 2, 10, 20. But then you lose track. Numbers slip away. Time, the very thing you once traveled through, becomes meaningless. The sun rises. The sun sets. That's all that remains. And in that cycle, the word forever begins to press down on you. Forever means never hearing another human voice. Forever means never touching the familiar. Forever means becoming part of a world that was never yours. And forever terrifies you, because it makes every small survival meaningless. What is the point of eating, drinking, breathing, if each moment only stretches the length of your prison? Forever is not survival. Forever is a sentence. At some point, despair turns into desperation. You begin to claw at solutions, wild and reckless. You search caves for hidden rifts. You scream at the sky as if the portal will hear you. You run through forests until your lungs burn, convinced movement itself will shake loose reality. But every attempt ends the same way, with silence, with emptiness, with exhaustion. And then, fear mutates into something darker. You consider risking everything, lighting fires bigger than forests, shattering stones until your hands bleed, even hurling yourself off cliffs, praying the impact might jolt time into opening again. Because horror isn't just being trapped. Horror is being trapped with no way out. And in your madness, you ask the question you once feared. If you cannot return, should you even go on? At a river's edge, you see yourself again. But this time, the reflection doesn't comfort. It haunts. The face staring back at you is thinner, paler, older. A ghost of the person you once were. And you realize you are disappearing. Not just from your own time, but from yourself. Every day you remain here, the person you were fades a little more. You think of the people you left behind. The ones who will never know what happened. The ones who will never see you again. Regret floods in, not for what you did, but for what you'll never do. The conversations you'll never finish. The moments you'll never live. The future you'll never touch. Regret becomes the heaviest weight of all. Night again. The stars blaze above, indifferent. The fire burns low. The forest whispers nothing. You sit alone, wrapped in the silence of forever. And then, the thought strikes you with brutal clarity. Time is still moving. Back in your world, days are passing. Years are forming, people are aging. Without you, you are stuck, but time is not. Time doesn't pause, doesn't mourn, doesn't care. It flows onward, carving history without you in it. And that's the final horror. Not that you're lost, but that you've been left behind. The idea claws at your chest. What if you never return, and the world simply forgets you existed? The silence doesn't answer. But the stars above, eternal and unchanging, whisper the cruel truth. Time doesn't care about you. It moves on without you.